Hi, I'm Erin Otan, Director of Research Programs at Z Prime, and I'm here with Andy Marshall, the Practice Director of Distributed Energy Resource Management at Landis+Gyr, and we are in Washington, D.C. at the Grid Connects event. Thanks for joining us today, Andy.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Erin. I appreciate it.
So why are you here at this event this week?
So I will be on a panel tomorrow afternoon talking about the value of DER, but this is my second time at this conference. Last year it was, I found the conference to be great because it was a lot more of a mix of utility and policy than it is utility and tech, which I'm used to going to. So from my standpoint, it was a great conference.
Great.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. So broadly speaking, where do you see the most biggest opportunity or area for most change in the industry going into 2019?
So there's a lot of places, and if you think about just 2019, you can cut this answer a couple different ways, right? So there's going to be change going on in this industry over the next 5 to 10 plus years. But if you're going to see places where I think you're going to see the most change in the near term, I think there's a couple places. One, I think, is around workforces. I think there's going to be a lot of changes in utility workforces, specifically around bringing in new talent and having that current generation work with new technology. So I see a lot of change around there, and I think that will come on very quickly. There's some things that come on longer term. Things around DER management, et cetera. But I think those are things that take a little bit more time, typically wash through with policy cycles, et cetera. So, I see things very tactically around, operations, workforce management. I think those are the things that we'll see the most change in the next year.
So speaking of distributed energy resource management, Landis+Gyr and Z Prime recently partnered up on a research project around DERs and the systems needed to manage them. 77% of the utilities that we surveyed said that the importance of DERs and DERMS will increase in the next 1 to 2 years. Did that statistic surprise you, and why or why not?
Absolutely not surprising at all. I think what's interesting is if you think about DER management, I think it means something to every utility a little different. So that's one reason why I think most will answer, yes, I absolutely see that as something that's going to be impacting me. But the other interesting fact is if there are it means different things to different utilities. It means different things to us who serve those utilities as well. So for instance, when some utilities talk about it, they mean management of distributed solar, right? And there's certain areas of the country where that's really important. In other areas of the country, it means management or managed charging for electric vehicles and electric vehicle fleets. And again, that has different spreads around the country as well. So, from the standpoint of utilities thinking about this, I do think they're all thinking about it. I also think they're thinking about it differently and have different near-term problems to solve.
Okay. And so, do you think that difference in the way that utilities think about DERs contributes to the fact that there's not really a clear consensus around who owns DERs in a utility's territory?
Absolutely. I think that's definitely part of it because there are different ownership models for all of these different distributed energy resources. Solar has its own, batteries will have its own EVs and EV charging infrastructure will all have their own models. I think what utilities are really thinking about is they understand that there will be different ownership models, and the question will be how do we as utilities work within those different models to get the things that are the best for the grid but also the best for the consumer at the end of the day. So that's where I really think a lot of the work's being done on the utility side is figuring out how to work within these existing contractual structures, et cetera, but doing so to help make sure that they can still drive the value out of controlling those assets when they need to and having them deliver the grid benefits they can.
And so another thing we found in the research that we did together was that the top 2 challenges for utilities in implementing DERs and DERMS was return on investment and budget limitations. So what can utilities do to start to overcome those hurdles?
Yeah, and there's a number of things that a utility can do, and they've done this many times with new technologies in the past. And I think the model will be very similar with DER management systems. So I think first of all is to find the sort of the killer applications. So what are the business cases, use cases that they can make almost the whole case for investing in a new technology on with that value stream alone. I think that worked very well for things like AMI, et cetera. Certainly there are other benefits they're going to monetize over time, but if you can have one killer app, I think that's really important. The second thing that I think is really important is realizing that you don't have to bite off you don't have to eat the whole apple at once with these technologies. You can sort of, bite the apple one bite at a time to get to the full solution. And that means, I think, for utilities now is thinking about the types of investments that are platform-wide and will serve all of the potential use cases. So there's things like, building the multi-purpose networks, building an IoT platform strategy, et cetera, and then building in the sensors into their rate cases that will also help that. So, I think that's what utilities are going to need to do is to, obviously sharpen their pencils on the business case, but find those killer apps and then build the technology that they need in a stepwise fashion.
Okay. And so we're coming to the end of the year, looking forward to 2019. We've been hearing a lot about blockchain. Do you think that momentum will continue into next year? Is that one of those technologies that utilities can employ? And what role do you see blockchain playing when it comes to managing distributed energy resources?
Yeah, like people's Christmas presents, there's a lot to unpack there. So let's go with that. So from the standpoint of will there be progress in 2019? I certainly think there will be progress. The question will be how much and where will you see the most progress, right? So I think from the blockchain standpoint, there's no doubt that folks see the value of the technology in different elements for the utility. The question will be, do we remain in study mode? And how long do we remain in study mode? And how long do we have to answer the questions to make ourselves comfortable that there is, again, maybe a killer application for it? I think, as I think about your second question there, which is sort of a follow-on from my Find the Killer app, I think that's where a lot of the progress will be made. I think you'll see pilots here and there testing it. My personal thoughts on the use case is primarily around DER management and potentially for transactive energy. I don't know if you'll see a lot of progress toward wide-scale rollouts of this. I just don't think there's enough DER on the grid to warrant that yet. But I certainly do see in pockets, and I certainly see the activity that would be driving us to determining whether this is the right technology to potentially in the long run solve that problem or enable that capability.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're looking forward to your panel tomorrow.
Definitely.
And thanks for joining us.
Perfect. Thanks, Erin.